Oh, welcome back to the Tiga Tactics podcast, show about self-defense, force villains, bicycling. We discuss all things personal protection, including martial arts, combat sports, and street combatives. Our resident MANs, martial arts nerds, include co-founder of Tiga Tactics, holder of black belt in 9 different styles, Dr. Conrad Bui.
Hello, everybody.
We are missing the other co-founder, Patrick Vuong, as happens to be the consistency over the last couple months. It's been a busy couple of months, and I am your other co-host, retired Army Special Forces soldier and champion obstacle course racing athlete Evan Ultra-OCR Man Perperis. Today we're going to be talking about belts and ranks. Before we get to that, though, a quick word from this episode's sponsor. So this is brought to you by Vulpus Training, which you've heard us talk about on the podcast numerous times. Conrad, I know you just got some new products in from Vulpus. Tell me what you got and kind of why you decided to order those.
All right, I have a Hawaiian War Club, and I just thought, I'll just talk about that one because I thought I kind of want a trainer that would work as a self-defense tool.
Mm.
And I was looking through, I was like, the way they make these polymer training tools. They're indestructible. And I think the one that I got, my Hawaiian War Club, would probably be more durable than the actual thing. I mean, it would take a lot to bend this, break this, chip this. Yeah, I think you could definitely use it for combat.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I got the same trainer. It's awesome. You can actually practice with it and actually make contact with like on Bob and on our bags, whatever, with it. So I think that's really cool. I also own an actual Hawaiian weapon. It looks like it's got a name. I don't remember the name off the top of my head. It looks like essentially brass knuckles, but they're made of wood and they have shark teeth on the outside. And it's not actually a full size version. It's actually a miniature version of it. And I was storing it with my other knives, and one of the teeth broke off. Right, and I wasn't even like hitting anything with it. It's just like sitting amongst my knife, and I guess one of them bumped into it, or when I grabbed it or
Oh,
something, it broke. So yeah, you're right. Because the real one, I mean, I feel like those teeth are breaking on every impact you make. So
yeah, yeah. Our war clubs do not have teeth, but you could whack away, and I think you would fatigue long before the material fatigued.
absolutely, and it has like the ridges on it, like there are
Yeah.
teeth though. So
Yes.
it simulates it nicely. All right, let's jump into today's episode. Again, talking about belts and ranks. We're going to talking about a little bit of the history, talk about some of the different systems we've studied, specifically on like what belts and ranks are for those systems, how many belts and ranks there should be or shouldn't be, and some of the pros and cons, some of the myths, etc. So, Conrad, you are the resident expert in all things martial arts, in my opinion. Why don't you start off with a little bit of history?
Yeah. I'd hate to break it to everyone. Belts weren't here all the time in martial arts, and
No,
yeah,
you're
I know.
ruining it.
I know. When you drive up to a martial arts school that says like karate or judo or jujitsu, you expect belts, and I think a lot of people think that these belts have always been around. These belts were introduced until the late 1800s by Jigoro Kano, the inventor of judo in the late 1800s, and later on from judo it spread into all the other martial arts like karate, taekwondo, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and even traditional arts that never used belts are starting to use that nowadays. And I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but we'll talk about that later. But yeah, so it started in Japan, and that was during the time when uh, the Japanese were transitioning from jitsu, like jujitsu, to judo, and karate jitsu to karate do, and those dos. And kendo, like kenjutsu became kendo, aikijujitsu became aikido. And so the do became more of for more public consumption. In other words, it became more of a vehicle for self-development. And in some cases, like judo, and karate systems, some karate systems, uh, a sport as well too. And so that sport was also part of the self-development as well too. And so when that transitioned over, uh, before there was no ranking. You were basically a student, or after you received permission from your teacher, he would say, "Okay, well, you're an instructor now," and so they would give you uh, a certificate, or they would give you some of the Japanese schools would give you a scroll with some of the secret techniques, and that scroll would prove that you are now an instructor, and you go out and open up your own school. And in China and many parts of Asia, actually, you were either a student or an instructor in Chinese arts. You might be called a shifu or shifu, and uh, that was actually a title that you wouldn't go around calling yourself like, "Oh, I'm Shifu Bui." Uh, your students would call you that, and your
Mm.
community would call you that. Your community might call you master even, and but you would never really introduce yourself with that title. So that title was more bestowed upon you by your own students inside your own school, or the public. If they knew, oh yeah, Evan has this kung fu school in the corner. He's that's Shifu Evan there, but you wouldn't go around introducing yourself as Shifu Evan. So that's kind of the history, and I want to tell a cool story that I used to tell when I was younger, and I I think I when I was younger, I thought that was a good story, but I kind of knew it was just a story. But so here's a story about belts. That's a myth, actually. And so the story was this: the the student would start in a white gi and a white belt, and well, as you trained, and usually they trained outside, the gi would get dirty, so that you would wash the gi and you would not wash the belt, thinking that the belt helped contain the knowledge, and so you wouldn't
Mm.
wash the belt. And so you're training outside. Eventually you're training on the grass. It gets kind of yellow, and then it turns green, and then you're training on the grass some more, and you destroy the grass. It becomes dirt, and then your belt starts turning brown, and then after years of use, eventually your belt turns black. So that's a kind of a cool story. It's a myth though, but I think it's a cool story about how the belt might start out white and end up black.
That is a cool story. I also have heard that myth. I feel like it's probably, I mean, it's a little bit probably rooted in truth, though, right? Because I mean, my white like geese and stuff like that are now no longer like bright white. Now they're kind of a little bit darker. Obviously, not to the point where they turn black, but I feel like there's a little bit of truth to that, and that that now that we actually have black fabrics and people buy them, um, I think it's a nice inspiration, even though it's not necessarily founded in complete truth.
Right.
Just, just my 2 cents.
All right. All right. Okay. So why don't we do this? We can move into some of the arts that we've trained in and some of the belts and what they represented. And so I'll just start with Taekwondo. That was my first system. And whoo, man, yeah, this system was very well organized, and it had a lot of belts. So you had to earn your white belt. So when you started, you started as a no belt, and
Mm,
which was kind of cool, I
I
thought. But
like
looking
that.
back at it now, looking back at it, it's like to earn your white belt, you had to know just the basic punches like a back fist or a jab, a reverse punch or a cross, a front kick and a round kick and a side kick. So you had to learn those five techniques before you earned your white belt. And that's kind of cool because that just kind of shows that once you have your white belt, you can kind of jump in class and do pretty much what is asked of you in class. You don't know everything, obviously, but you at least know the basics to hang with the rest of the class. And
Yeah.
so after white belt, we went into a yellow belt, and then an orange belt, and then a green belt, and then a purple belt, and then a blue belt, and then a red belt, and then a brown belt, and then finally the black belt. And in between each belt, we also had some stripes as well too. When I was going through the curriculum, we had two stripes. One stripe meant that you've kind of learned or you have a very shallow grasp of what you need for your next belt. And then the second stripe meant that you have a more firm understanding of the curriculum for your next belt. So let's say you're a white belt with one stripe. That meant that you've just learned enough of the curriculum to pass into yellow belt, but you're not ready to test. The second stripe means that you've learned it and you're getting ready to test. You're just about ready to test. And so that's what those two stripes meant. And so each belt had stripe, and I think between red and brown belt, there was like a red belt with a brown stripe in the center, and
Yeah.
then from brown to black, there was also a brown belt with a little black stripe in the center of the belt as well too. So those kind of signified that you learned enough of the curriculum to move on as well too.
Was that the same belt? Did your school have like an adult and kids program, and was that the same belt system for both?
That was the same belt system for everyone. Yeah, so when we get into the pros and cons, I just thought the pros with that was wow, it was very organized. Like you knew exactly where you were, what you needed to study at exactly what level, and how long you should be there if you're coming to class regularly, 2 to 3 times a week, kind of thing. So that was kind of the cool part of that curriculum. I know you and Patrick had a talk about Kempo. What was the belts in your Kempo system?
So they gave us a white belt straight out the gate. Although I do kind of like earning that white belt. I think that I like that like initial from a marketing perspective, also from like an accomplishment perspective that you've learned a couple of basic things, and it's like a nice way to get people engaged right up front. So it was white, yellow, orange, purple, blue, blue, green, 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 brown, and then 3 degrees of brown, and then black. There's a lot.
Wow. So the 3 degrees of brown, how would they signify it? Would there be like electrical tape or what do you guys use?
We, I think some of the other schools use black electrical tape. My instructor didn't do anything. He's like, "Here's your brown belt back." I was like, "It's the same brown belt I just tested for."
Okay.
So, I feel like we should use electrical tape. We didn't do it. They didn't do it. I literally just had a plain brown belt for like a year, as I was going through all the different brown belt levels. So
All
I don't
right.
know.
And what did you think of the organization of your curriculum based around those belts?
I liked the organization because it was clear. It was like you need to know this form, these two forms for this belt, and these series of defenses, and then it was just a matter of not only memorizing them and being able to do them effectively, but then also more practice sparring. So there was some like stuff that was very rigid. Here are the forms, and here are the defenses you need to know, and then the rest of it was like there was part of it that was a little more malleable, right? Like when your instructor thought you were ready to test for the next one. I liked the solid belt colors. I think those are cool and a good way to mark progress. I feel like the mixed belt colors, it feels too marketing and gimmicky to me. I feel like you're forcing it at that point. Um, at, and if we would have replaced green brown with like a red belt or something, I would have been okay with it. But I don't like the mixed belt colors. I don't know. It seems like we're forcing it at that point. Just my two.
Mhm. Okay, so anybody owning a school out there, there's one person's perspective on those mixed colors.
I don't like mixed colors. It's yeah, it's too much. It's too much. I'd rather do like electrical tape stripes than do mixed colors. I don't know.
Yeah, I remember when I was running class and I would promote students and one of the students, is that just electrical tape? No, 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 this is ancient tape. This is very very serious stuff. Don't you think it's just electrical tape?
No, you can't go buy this at Home Depot. You have to come here and earn each piece of tape.
Yes, that's right. It's not just electrical tape, but it was just electrical tape. But that was that was funny. Yeah. So later on, as I got into other arts, like Jeet Kune Do, Silat, Kun Tao Bagua, those were very loose back then, and even now. And so, especially like Silat, Kun Tao Bagua. Uh, these were just taught in people's homes or garages or backyards. So there really wasn't uh, any belt system at all. It was like your teacher just saw you one day, and well, after years of teaching you, they'll just say, "Okay, you're ready to teach this stuff now." And so there really was no curriculum. I think that was much more traditional, those arts. It's just that, again, there wasn't a solid curriculum. Like, okay, here's some forms, here's some stuff, and you do some drills sometimes. You do a lot of techniques and things like that. And sometimes it's kind of like it's there's a loose curriculum
Mm.
and there's a set of standards, I guess, and back in the day, the set of standards were forms. So your teacher, way back in the day, like usually warriors, they weren't scholars, and so they weren't able to write down their material in a book. So they would teach you the set and then teach you the theories and some techniques and things in the set. And so that's how they would give you a manual. And so I guess you would be given these loose manuals and however you want to interpret it, and then also uh, bring it forward. In other words, try to improve upon the art. You can do that as well too. So there was a lot of interpretation. I guess we'll talk about that in the pros and cons, but right away, one of the cons for me was that it was just very loosely organized, and
Mm.
every teacher underneath that instructor taught it in their own way. So that's why a lot of times once a teacher passes and then his students start teaching, why student A looks so much different than student B, C, D, and E. And so that yeah, that's kind of traditional. Yet there's there's some looseness there that can cause some division as
Yeah.
well as arguments. And again, though, that's just how an art grows and flourishes. I know you did some Jeet Kune Do. Were there ranks where you learned Jeet Kune Do?
So I loved my Jeet Kune Do school, elite martial arts in Junction City, Kansas. We had ranks. We didn't wear any belt colors to signify our ranks. And my instructor, who was very good and very knowledgeable, was very, his organization of the ranks I felt was not very good. So he'd be like, all right, you're on phase one, level one. I'd be like, okay. And then he's like, all right, phases are like the big ones, and then levels are like the sub parts. Um, but then sometimes like I'd get a certificate and my level would be higher than my phase. Like sometimes confuse his own system. So I have multiple certificates that sometimes would say like different things, and then sometimes I'd get the same certificate, and I'd be like, this is the same certificate you gave me last time." He's like, "Right, I'll give you a new one." So he always fixed it. He always fixed it. But it did feel very like we weren't coming up to the test. I knew what the test was going to be focused on, but
Mhm.
as far as like an overall arching path forward, I did not know what that looked like. Like I could tell you what the next, what we're currently working on and what the next test would be on, but as far as like how this leads to instructorship, or how long that's going to take, or what that path looks like, and what I'm going to have to know, and how many different trapping sequences or anything like that, no clue. So yeah.
Okay, so there wasn't like a big curriculum book or set that they gave to you at the beginning or
Correct.
anything.
Not for Jeet Kune Do and
Okay.
not for Kali.
Hmm.
Brazilian Jiu Jitsu was at that school as well, and it was under the Pedro Sauer Association, and they had like literally a list of like, here are 60 moves you need to do to go from white to blue, and here are 60 moves you need to go blue to purple, something like that. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, we'll save Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for last because that has a interesting belt system as well too, compared to some of the other systems. Uh, I do want to talk about Muay Thai, and Muay Thai traditionally in Thailand. Again, it's pretty much you were either a student or a slash competitor, or you were a trainer. So there really wasn't any belt ranking as well too. The school where I go to, we do have belt ranks and belt tests, and uh, it's very loose as well too. Like I don't see too many people getting past the green sash at our school. So we have sashes. It starts as a white sash. Usually that takes about a year to get. And then a yellow sash, which usually takes anywhere from, after your white sash, anywhere from 1 to 5 years to
Oh,
get
wow.
to. Yeah, it's that loose. That's why a lot of
That
the
feels like a huge gap. That's a huge
yeah,
gap.
yeah, it's that loose. And so that's why a lot of the instructors at our school, they're just yellow sashes. Uh, I, I'm currently just a green sash, one above the yellow sash. And there's only been uh, one other student I've seen that has a blue sash. And I believe after the blue sash, there's still a red, a brown, and then a black. But
Oh my
uh,
goodness.
there's green sashes at our school that has won like K1 tournaments and
That's so
and
funny.
have competed at the world level. The blue sash, he's won some K1 qualifiers and tournaments. And also, he's been some Thai fighters with over 200 fights, that kind of level. But he's only a blue sash. So at our school, super loose. Uh, I think, and we'll talk about this in the pros and cons later, but I think because it's kind of so loose, people lose interest because,
Yes.
you know, if you're not competing, well, you know, I guess fitness only goes so far for some
Right.
people. So they might want fitness as well as something challenging. That's not necessarily competition. So I think by having a tighter belt system, if you will, it might be able to keep the students a little longer because I can tell some students are just like, I don't know where I am. I don't know where I'm going. I'm not going to compete. So,
Yeah.
and then they just, yeah, the fitness thing only goes so far. Like,
Yes.
oh, they know they're coming in, they're getting fit, but now they're just like, they feel like they're just on a hamster wheel and just not going anywhere. So, what are your thoughts on that kind of loose belt system?
Yeah, that seems a little bit too loose. I think you need some smaller time frames and you need a little more structure. Where I train Muay Thai in person, we have not had any belt systems. Our last instructor, we've gone through several instructors just based off of them getting jobs, or one of them went to Thailand to fight in Thailand. And our last instructor we had he's like, how many people are here are prepping for fights? And it was like there's like one or two people that were like kind of interested in amateurs, but they hadn't done any fights. And so the majority of the class was just people here, again, just to fit, to train, to learn how to throw punches and kicks. And he's like, okay, he's like, we're gonna do like a belt system. He's like, so we'll kind of get that ball rolling. And within like a month of him doing that, he got a new job and moved out. So our belt system never came to fruition. That being said, I like having a little bit of structure just for self accountability. So while I train in person at this gym, Florian Martial Arts, I also have like an online Muay Thai program that I go through that has I think there's 6 levels. And there are colors associated with each level, but that they don't, there's no like specific sash or belt that I mean, I guess I could go buy a belt or buy a sash and wear that while I train Muay Thai, like by myself, hitting the bag or whatever. But
Mhm.
there's not like they don't send me a belt, but my certificates that I get from this online program has like a color on the border. So I think that one is yellow, orange, green, blue, brown, black. So I'm currently blue. So don't want to brag, Conrad, but I'm higher than you.
Yeah, I know, I know.
So
I oh, so sorry, go ahead.
Conrad's my training partner for a lot of these. So for the online program, one essentially you record training hours. So the higher rank essentially you need to record 60 hours of training of essentially doesn't have to be sparring, but it has to be hitting the bag, going to class, etc. So you have to record 60 hours of training, and then there are like periodic checkups where it's like film this drill and send it to your instructor, and then you film it and send it. And I've never met that instructor in person, but he sends me feedback. Sometimes he makes me refilm stuff. He actually makes me refilm stuff more times than I was expecting for an online course because I feel like I refilm almost everything. And and then after you essentially pass whatever standard he has set forth in his mind, you advance to the next level. So yeah.
Okay, and I know you've done other courses. You've done a Wing Chun course. How'd they grade you in that one?
That one. So Wing Chun, the one again, I was taking Jeet Kune Do in person, um, and I wanted some Wing Chun to kind of like because Jeet Kune Do came out of Wing Chun. I was like, I
Hmm.
wonder, and I also wanted to know what was happening in the Ip Man movies. So I wanted to learn the forms a little bit. So I took an online Wing Chun course. It took me about a year, maybe just a little over a year to go through. Where basically it was just the forms. So there
Hmm.
wasn't any chi sao in that course, that online course. But I did do chi sao in my Jeet Kune Do classes,
Hmm.
and that one was, I believe it was 6 ranks, and it was just a Wing Chun's very few forms, right? So it was just aligned with the form. So it was, Selim Tao was a rank. Um, my brain is it's late, but it was empty hand form, and then it was wooden dummy form.
Chum
Yeah,
Buzi.
yeah, yeah. Jump Q. I'm sorry. Thank you. So uh, Selim Tao, Chumkyu. Then I think it was
Bilzi.
I can't remember if Buji was at the end or in the middle.
Oh.
I want to say it was towards the end. All
Hmm.
right, then I think it was long pole.
Hmm.
Um, and then I think it was wooden dummy one, and then wooden dummy two. They broke that into 2 ranks,
Hmm.
and then it was Buji if it wasn't already, and then there was the Bachamdo, the butterfly swords. What usually people
Cool.
usually.
Cool.
So and that one did have colored they had colored sashes.
Oh.
And I don't the order I think was yellow, orange, green, blue, brown, black. I think it was the same as like the Muay Thai order. So
Hmm.
yeah. And that one again you'd film the form in one uncut video. You'd send it in and he has like a grading sheet. He'd send you back the grading sheet. So,
Great.
and
Cool.
it
Cool.
came with DVDs, so you'd watch the DVDs, and they'd show you from multiple angles, and it was like, but the DVDs were pretty extensive, so it was, and then he would show you some application on the DVDs, but the test was just like do the form, film the form, one video, send it in. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Any other system that you we haven't talked about that you might want to talk about at all, Evan?
Just a lot of like the weird I use that term lovingly, the weird knife systems I've kind of gone through. A
Mm.
lot of them are it's usually like nothing and then like complete the course. Or Western Piper has 3 levels and then it has an instructor level and then a senior instructor level. Medusa was just you're a student and then you're instructor. So there's no like completing the student phase, and then it was just like you either have the material or you're an instructor.
Hmm.
So I kind of like us. I kind of like that there's when there's like a student practitioner, like when there's ranks, and then there's like an instructor as something separate, right? Because I know for like martial blade concepts, there's a lot to become an instructor. There's like a lot of drills and a lot of things you have to do.
Hmm.
And I'm while I enjoy martial blade concepts, I know I'm not gonna teach that at any point. But I would, if there was like in student ranks, I'd be more than happy to like go through some of the student ranks. But the instructor requires a lot of time, money, and then travel because I think you have to test that they're like Denver event or something.
Hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk about the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, unless there's another art you want to discuss.
No, I think we can jump into Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, who likes to criticize other arts for having too many belt colors.
Right, right. Yeah. And so all right. So in case any of our listeners don't know, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has 5 colors basically: white, blue, purple, brown, then black. And so from white to blue, it depends on the school. Some schools, like a year, will give you a blue belt, and some schools take a little longer than that. So, well, what was your experience from the white to blue there, Evan?
Mine was about 2 years.
Hmm.
That's 2 years of consistently showing up because we had guys that were there for I think over 2 years that were a little bit more inconsistent. Um, but we also only did class. We only did Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. We did gi twice a week and no gi on the once on the weekend. So it wasn't a whole. It wasn't like as many classes. Like
Hmm.
where I train now, you can go to like there's lunchtime classes every day and then there's evening classes every day. So you can
Hmm.
like you can get like theoretically, if you cleared your schedule, you could do like 10 classes in a week.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's how those schools are. Like some schools might even have like you could train even three times if there's enough.
yeah. Yeah.
So yeah. Uh, so comparatively, like for me for Taekwondo, it took me 3.5 years or so to get my black belt. And so you can see it took me also similar to you, Evan, about 2 years to get from a white to blue belt as well too. And so uh, I want to say that the oh of all the arts, it is a very loose curriculum, if you will. There's some schools that have like no curriculum. In fact, all of my teachers, they're all from Brazil. I've had one, two, three. I've had uh, three major teachers. I've had more than that, but three major teachers, and none of them had any curriculum. And
Mm.
if you ask them to, what do I need to know for blue belt, they would probably just look at you and think, "What are you even talking about? I don't understand what you're talking about." So that was how how I trained, and I think a lot of schools are still like that. There's no curriculum at all, but there are schools now with curriculum. A big group is called Alliance. Alliance has a curriculum as well too. So I think the curriculum is is definitely a part of some Brazilian jiu-jitsu gyms. And so you said you belong to one that had a curriculum.
Correct.
So what was that like, and how were the tests?
It was more self-defense focused and sport focused.
Hmm.
So a lot of it, some of it was like it kind of reminded me of some like World War II combative stuff. It was like someone does like a bear hug from behind. How do you deal with that?
Hmm.
So your arms are free. Okay, now your arms are trapped. Okay, now you're facing them doing the same move, or you know your arms are free. Like someone gets you in a chokehold standing from behind. So there was a lot like the stand-up portion was a lot of more like it reminded me more of like traditional self-defense type stuff. And then the ground portion was use the term classic Brazilian jiu-jitsu. It wasn't very sportive. Like we didn't do single leg X, we didn't do X, we didn't do X, we didn't do De La Riva. Although we did teach De La Riva at the school, that wasn't part of the testing curriculum.
Hmm.
It was just more like, you know, mount, guard, basic sweeps, basic submissions, nothing you'd see kind of like on Instagram as like a that's anything worth shareable, right? Like, you know, sometimes people like share stuff around on Instagram.
Hmm.
It's like it's just basic jujitsu, arm bars, you know, the bent arm bars, or Americana, Kimura, stuff like that. So. And then the test itself was she basically our black belt female was the one testing us. She had us go through essentially the curriculum move by move. Do this, do this, do this, do that, and like we literally went down the list. And then at the end there was some kind of free rolling where she had us roll with some other students. And then sometimes she would roll with you as well, just to kind of get a feel for it, uh, see how you were doing. Because she
Hmm.
actually didn't she wasn't at our school. She was at a different school, so she would kind of visit to promote people. Yeah.
Hmm.
So it was for the test. The test beat like we had to study for it. It was just so many moves that we like. I remember we come in every like a couple times a week before class, and for a couple of weeks, and we're like just going over the stuff. And I still use some of the stuff that I didn't think I would use. Like occasionally someone gets me in like a body lock position, and I use like my old like white to blue curriculum that I was like, oh, I don't think I'm ever going to use this. And I literally do it to people in my current sport gym if they get
Cool.
behind me.
So it works.
It works, yeah, yeah. But it's just
Very,
more, it's a little more classical than sportive, yeah.
all right. And your current gym, any curriculum?
So there is a quote unquote system, as in like here's the escapes we teach from side control, here's the escapes we teach from guard, here's the escapes we
Hmm.
teach from mount. That being said, it's not printed anywhere, and there's no document that I've ever seen that explains it. But we talk about it as if it is as a physical document. So there's
Interesting.
like our instructor Keith Flooring, right? There's certain escapes he likes to use and likes to teach, that he is through his I don't know decades of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu experience has proven to be effective. So that's primarily what he teaches. So uh, I try to use his system obviously when I'm in the gym, but I also have like holdovers from my last school and from Army combatives that I'll occasionally kind of throw in there as well.
Very cool. Very cool. And I think nowadays with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai, people approach it more as a sport
Yeah,
than like a traditional art where you pledge loyalty to that school. So by going from school to school, and I know some people who do that, and some of my students do that. They go to this school, they go to that school. I'm totally cool with it because every school has their own flavor and different escapes, different guards, different things like that. If you're dedicated to the art and you want to explore it that way, I think that's a terrific way because every school approaches Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu from a different way. Uh, yeah, so we talked about this before, and I remember hearing you say this. White belt, blue belt, and up to blue belt is to beat uh, the non-jujitsu people on the street, and anything past that, purple, brown, black, is jujitsu on jujitsu.
yeah.
All
That's what
right.
I've heard other jiu-jitsu players, fighters say. And from my experience, my 4 year, just over 4 years of jiu-jitsu experience, I still agree with that statement.
I agree with it too. I agree with it too. The thing with jujitsu though, since it's so well, I can't say every school, but many schools it's performance based. So basically, if here's how a teacher from my kind of system looks at people. Uh, oh, okay. As a white belt, looks like you're dominating a lot of white belts, and you're hanging with the blue belts. Your turn to be a blue belt. And you know, my teachers, some of them they had like a graduation or a promotion class or a promotion event, and
Yeah.
some of my teachers they'll just give it to you during class, like good job. Here's your blue belt, you know. And so, and then same thing with from blue to purple. It's like, okay, you're dominating a lot of blue belts and you're hanging with the purple. Here's your purple belt. And same thing for brown and black. And in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, in a lot of schools, purple belts, they're equal to a black belt. They know and they can hang with some black belts. It's just their game isn't as tight yet.
Mm.
So they have a game close to a black belt. It's just that brown belt's kind of a bridge to tying up that to get to black belt. That's all. And so a lot of purple belts, heck, if you're winning purple belt tournaments consistently, your skill level's probably similar to black belts right there. And that's why a lot of like purple belt phenoms, they become brown belt phenoms, they become black belt phenoms. My teacher, he was a phenom as well too. He won the worlds as a brown belt, and then as soon as he hit black belt, he was in there dominating the black belts already. And so it gets kind of loose after the purple belt, I think. And that's what kind of makes Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu unique, is because once you hit that purple belt, you're in the advanced levels already.
Mm.
Uh, let's see what else. Yeah, when I competed a while back at these Abu Dhabi qualifiers, so you had to qualify to get a ticket to go fight in Abu Dhabi, and they would fly you out there for their tournament. Actually, if you won your division,
Oh
except
wow.
yeah, back in those days though. It was beginners and advanced. And beginners were white and blue belts, and advanced were purple, browns, and blacks. And yeah, I saw some purples dominating black belts. And so I was just a white belt at that time, but I was like just shocked, like, oh my gosh, I thought black belts were unstoppable, but it turns out that as a competitive purple belt, you're pretty advanced already. And
Mm.
one thing I also tell my students, you roll the way you roll. It doesn't matter what kind of belt you got around your waist, you roll the way you roll. And so don't worry so much about the belt. But that's generally how teachers like myself and my instructors, we watch you after years of doing this, and then we see you dominating. If you're a white belt, we see you dominating more of the white belts. We see you hanging with the blue belts. It's about time for a blue belt. And also, of course, the I guess the real gold standard is if you want to compete and see where you stack up against other schools, that's also a good determination of your rank as well too. Some schools I've ran into competitors that told me I can't get my blue belt until I win a white belt tournament. And so uh, there's not a lot of those schools, but I've ran into people from those schools before. Have you?
I have not. I had a friend that trained at a different school, who had some students they were like, if they want to move up a belt, they have to go compete. And he didn't necessarily have to say they have to win the tournament or win their weight class, but
Mm,
he's like, I need to see this person compete. And I think it was specifically because of it was a female, and I just don't think he had good training partners for her, so it's hard to like get a good feel,
mm.
because everyone else was male and athletic and younger, so it was like I need to see where you stack up against people a little more of your demographic. So
Very cool. All
I'm
right.
I'm, I'm
Well,
some speculation there, but that's the way I understood it.
that makes sense. That would make sense. Let's hop into the pros and cons of having a belt because we've just talked about some systems don't have belts at all, and many systems do. You want to start with the cons or the pros?
Let's start with the pros.
All right. All right. Why don't you go first?
Pros, it gives a very clear picture of like who's at least been here for a while or who has some level of competency, right? A guest instructor could walk in, or someone who's new to the school, or as maybe doesn't know, or like a big school, you can look around the room and be like, okay, this person generally probably knows what's going on. These
Mhm.
people, I probably shouldn't be imitating their movements.
Yes, I totally agree with that. When I'm teaching, sometimes there's a new student in my class, and if they have a belt on, at least I kind of know, oh, okay, this person's more advanced, this person's a beginner. So yes, definitely to help figure out who can help you, as well as who you should pair people up with
Yes.
to organize class, basically. So that's definitely a good one. Uh, I, I would
Pros.
I would say goal setting, motivation. I think that's a terrific thing. I know as a kid, as in Taekwondo, every 3 months I was ready to test, and that motivated me to get to class, to train, to memorize those set of moves. And so for me, motivation was a big part of it.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
I'll power off the motivation. It's just, again, martial arts is obviously, we're training for fighting, so that's kind of serious. But it's also fun, and I think the belt colors are fun. Like,
Cool.
you know, my the kids I train on campus, I have a group of like 6 to 10 kids I train. They get very excited when they get a new belt color. It is like they're just ecstatic.
Yeah.
So, as an adult, I don't quite get the level of excitement they do, but I get, like, I'm
Ah,
happy. I smile. I'll, we'll take the kids out for ice cream when I was testing for karate every time I got a new belt. So it was fun.
Cool. It's not just fun, the motivation. You could see the pride that they've conquered something. They've surmounted something. It's like climbing a mountain, And so I saw your post on that, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, yeah. What about any other pros you think?
It helps to standardize a curriculum.
Mm,
So, in other words, if you want to franchise your art, or if you want some kind of standard, like okay, I want to make sure that an instructor has or any student at this level has a standardized set of skills. And also, it forces the instructor to create a tighter curriculum
mm,
as well too. But that's the arts that you can do that with, or that you want to. Again, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has belts, but many schools have no curriculum at all. It's like, okay, how do you break guard? Well, this is what uh, my instructor uses, and I use something slightly different, and here's what I might use. And so there's this loose curriculum, but it's not that standardized. But if you want to standardize things and have every move categorized, that's a way to do it.
yeah.
All right.
Um, but I feel like all my other pros kind of already are some fall under the umbrella of the pros we covered. What else do you
Right.
have?
All right. Well, that's I'm all out of pros. Let's hop on to
Okay.
the cons.
Cons are if it's a very tight curriculum, like you have to know X, Y, and Z, and there's no like subjective component, then sometimes it turns into like a belt mill. Like, all right, we'll learn X, Y, and Z. Okay, you can teach it back, the next month. All right, now you're ready for another belt.
Mm.
Like it becomes very how do I want to say it? It's very it just becomes a checklist of things that you're just doing and you're
Hmm.
not really internalizing or understanding it.
Right. And I think, that's an issue no matter what you're teaching, whether that's a university, a business degree or whatever. It just kind of like what you said, people are just trying to finish that checklist, but are they really understanding the material?
Yeah.
All right. And which
Cons. Oh, go for it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Which kind of dovetails right into the other con that the belt doesn't necessarily equate to skill all the time. And uh, so some people might have a false sense of confidence as well too.
Hmm.
So they might be a black belt, they've checked off everything, but they don't really know how to use their art in sparring or self-defense or under pressure as well too. So that might be a negative as well too, that the belt doesn't quite equate to skill.
Yeah. How do you feel about testing fee? This is kind of a con. So there are some schools who will charge a testing fee, and other schools this is part of the whatever. There's either no testing fee or there's no test, or yeah. How do you feel about testing fees for a belt test? Where
I think, I'm
where it's
sorry.
an actual test. It's not like, oh, hey, you got to pay me $100 if you want your blue belt
Right,
tomorrow night.
right. I think there may be some justification for that. I'm on the fence with that because I think maybe you could just build that into your student fees. Uh,
Yeah,
on the other note, they might need to get an instructor in, like what your jujitsu class did, your first jujitsu school did. They had to bring an instructor in, so that instructor might charge a fee. They might charge travel expenses as well too. So that might need to be covered. I know some schools they might break boards and bricks, and so the instructor has to go out and buy the boards. And
yeah,
some schools give like belts or even a different shirt or a uniform. And some schools have elaborate certificates as well. They have to print out and things like that. So I can understand the fee with that as long as it's justified. I agree with you. Oh, you owe me $100 if you want to get your blue belt. Well, that's something kind of weird there.
yeah. My karate school did have belt test fees, and they would increase as you went up higher in rank, which I wasn't crazy about. At the time, it felt like a cash grab, so I didn't like that. I think if they would have sold it, or if when they mentioned it, if they were like, "Hey, it's really a seminar fee, right?" Because essentially, what it ended up, our belt tests were like several hours long, like with instructors critiquing and then giving you feedback. It wasn't just like do the moves. It was like they would give you improvements throughout the test and like, yeah, it was essentially a seminar. If they would have when they explained it, if they would have like said more of it as like a seminar fee slash
Mm,
belt test, I would have
hmm
been more. I would have been like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
hmm
But looking back in hindsight, I can see that. But at the time, I was like, why, like, I'm already paying you tuition. Why am I paying you again?
hmm
And it was not during normal class hours. All of our belt tests were on like a non. It was either like Friday evening or Saturday morning, stuff like that. So it was an additional class. So it wasn't
Right.
like if it's just during normal class hours. Again, like my Jeet Kune Do didn't do test fees, but it was during normal class. So you just show up to class one day, and that was you have an hour to test. It would just be a harder class with a little more asking you to do stuff.
Yeah. So I think if the instructor can communicate why there is a fee and what it's for, I think that's more palatable. But
Agreed.
if
I
they're just
agree.
like, "Hey, you owe me some money if you want their next rank," then
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, that's
yeah.
that's not a good way to approach it. Definitely. Let's go to the next one. I think some students, they get the belt, and this happens in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu too. There's the what they call the blue belt blues. A lot of students leave after blue belt because, and then a lot of students also in traditional arts like Taekwondo or Karate, a lot of students take off after brown or black belt as well too because they think they're done. They feel like they've climbed the mountain and they're done. So I think sometimes acquiring a certain belt can actually backfire on you too if you don't prepare the student to continue on and try to set that next goal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh,
On like one small counterpoint to that, I would also say why did that student come into the dojo in the first place? Like maybe a lot I've heard that saying before, blue belt blues. Oh, this person quit after blue belt. This person quit after blue belt. Maybe that's all they're there for. Maybe they just want a little bit. They just want like a base of grappling,
mhm,
and then they want to go off and do other things, play other sports, or do
true.
other martial arts, or spend time with their family. Right? Like I think sometimes you get into a system, and you're like, I can't believe that dude quit, and it's like, well, maybe he got what he needed out of here,
Yeah, yeah.
and then he went on to
I
do
just can't understand that, but I'll agree with you.
I feel like I'm a quote unquote completionist. When I start something, I want to see it to what I view as like at least a logical stopping point. Maybe not all the way to the end, but like something that feels like a end point or feels like
Mm,
a major milestone. I'll say that
right.
because at some
Um,
point we all quit everything, right? Like
right.
unless you're still doing Muay Thai on your right before, like the day before you pass away. Like at some point you technically will have to stop.
Not me. I'm hoping
Not
to do it until the day I
Conrad,
pass away.
that's true.
Well,
You might be the exception,
You,
but
you know, I heard Haleo Gracie, he was still rolling with people until he was too sick to not roll with them in his 90s. And
hmm,
so, yeah, obviously, he wasn't dominating anybody, but I remember reading an interview and he said, my goal now is just to survive. If this guy doesn't tap me out, I consider that I won because I'm like 90 years old.
yeah, that's crazy. That is
Yeah.
crazy.
So which is totally cool. And I hope I hope to be doing this as long as I can. But let's move on to another con is ego.
Yes.
Some people they get this black belt, then the second degree, third degree, fourth degree, fifth, seventh, eighth. I don't know. I've seen 10th, 11th, 12th dons as well too. They keep pushing this number up and I see like these black belts sometimes at seminars. They're sitting there, they've got this gut, and they're in their uniform and they don't do anything anymore. It's like, oh my goodness, okay, whatever. But I think it can really mess with your ego as well too.
Mm. Yeah, especially when you get to like some of the higher dons, like it was like, well, the founder of the system is this Don, okay, but I would need to be that Don too. So they push him up, and
Mm,
then they like it keeps could this never-ending scale of like hierarchy, and egos. So yeah, I think there's definitely big danger in there.
yeah.
Um,
Oh, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was also gonna say like you also like we kind of talked about earlier, just because you're a black belt in some school, again, you may go to a different school and their
Hmm.
level of intensity might be completely different, whether it be striking,
Right.
even forms, right? Like there are people who teach
Right.
forms differently and or rolling. So you might be a black belt in one school and be a, purple belt in a different school, depending on, where you go.
Right. And so, yeah, that's exactly where I was going next. In the pros, I talked about standardization. Unfortunately, there is really no standardization amongst different schools. So, like what you said, you could be a black belt in one school, go to another school, and the purple and blue belts are mauling you, and you're like, what the hell? Also, yeah, they're even amongst jujitsu schools, especially amongst taekwondo schools. There's no standardization across the board. So I remember when I was competing in taekwondo and open tournaments, I was red belt and I was smoking this like third degree black belt. I was thinking, wow, okay, literally smoking this kid in sparring, and I just thought, okay, but yeah, so uh, the standardization that I talked about as a pro, that is kind of a con as well too.
Mm, yeah, excellent points. You have any more cons? What else you got?
No, I am all out. What
Okay.
about you?
No, I don't think I have anything. I talked about the belt fees already, so I think that's it. What do we feel? How do we feel about? We kind of touched on it earlier, right? With the multiple dons and the additional belts, there's like I don't know how do I put it. Sometimes people they have titles that are I will say do I want to see the word crazy? They're big titles. I'll just say that they're big titles. How do we feel about like these grandmaster titles and these other names for titles within systems?
I don't know. Again, there's no standardization amongst uh, even in the same system of
Mm.
Taekwondo or Kempo or Karate, even the same family branch, let's say. Uh, I'm all for call yourself whatever you want, and if you want me to call you that, I'll call you that too. Just
Okay.
whatever makes you happy, whatever floats your boat. I'm good with that. So, to each their own. I just think that again, that can really mess with your ego as well
Yes.
too. And hey, if you've got an ego that requires me to call you master, grandmaster, grand poobah, I'll call you whatever you want me to call you. I'm cool with it.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that, Evan?
I've kind of some of it seems a little bit ridiculous. I think
Hmm.
as long as you don't take yourself too seriously,
Hmm.
I'm okay with the title. So if you're a grandmaster, whatever, but and you walk around and you're like, okay, everyone, when I walk in, everyone needs to come like bow to me, like not necessarily within your, like if you go to other schools and you're like, you still need to treat me like I'm the head of your school, even though I don't belong to them. It's like, all right, well, maybe you should calm down. Maybe you should take yourself a little less seriously. I really think it's
Totally.
how you present yourself, but the
Yes.
actual title itself, I feel like is less of a big deal.
Right.
How do we feel about how do we feel about people wearing about maybe I shouldn't go down this road. Right? Like
Yeah.
you're Asian, you've got some very I don't know, Asian clothes. I don't know, like the kung fu clothes, right? Like
Hmm.
what Steven Seagal wears on some I don't know if he
Yeah.
still wears it. How do we feel about you or anyone wearing that type of outfit?
I think to me it's cosplay. And I love it. I'm a nerd. I love it. It just makes me feel like I'm being more authentic, which it's not, but it makes me feel I'm more authentic, and it makes me feel kind of like I'm in an anime thing, you know. So yeah, I go into Iaido, I get into my Hakama. When I do my other arts, I'll get into that. I think it's cool, but sometimes people get a little elaborate and you know, adding extra stripes on their belts and things like that, and having like lots of gold stripes and this stripes and that stripe. Yeah, to each their own. To each their own. I'm all good. If that's what makes you happy, go and do that.
Hmm. Gotcha. Gotcha.
All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I think at the core level, we are numb to people wearing gis. But how is that different from wearing a gi? It's just another uniform, right?
Hmm.
If I go to train at whatever school, I wear the appropriate uniform.
Right.
So I guess it's really not that different from that. So
Yeah, and
as
a
long as
lot
it's
of
done in
times.
as long as it's done respectfully and in good and
Right.
I don't have an issue.
Exactly.
I don't have any issues.
Exactly. All
Okay.
right. I think we've really beat this subject to death.
All right, let's start wrapping it up. Any final shout outs you need to give Conrad, upcoming events, etc.
Yeah, definitely. Please join us April 18th and 19th in Maryland. We've got our Tiga Tactics Toolset Training Tour, first time in Maryland. So come and join us for that. We're going to talk a lot about self-defense, personal protection, empowerment, using tools, whether that's your EDC blade or a flashlight or a pen or whatever is at hand. We're going to teach you body mechanics that you can plug and play with. If you pick up a brick, if you pick up a rock, if you pick up a hammer, use the same body mechanics. It's going to be transferable between different tool systems, different tool sets. So come and join us. You're going to have a lot of fun.
I'm looking forward to it. That is always my favorite weekends of the year. And if you want to train with us in person, that is where you have to do it. You have to come to one of the seminars and train in person.
Right.
I've got, well, let's see, I've almost so much stuff going on. It's been a busy week. I was just on, as of this recording, I was just on Marshall Meh. It's one of Dean Franco's podcasts with
Cool.
him and Renee, talking about military. We went deep into knife combatives, if anyone likes that stuff. We talked a little bit about faith. It was a mixture of a whole bunch of stuff. So I was on that. And then a couple days ago, I was also on FMA discussions. So if you go to the either Dean Franco's Facebook page or my Facebook page or the FMA discussions Facebook group, you can find both of those links in both of those videos. I think they were just over an hour each. That the one on FMA discussions was talking about Western Piper methods. It was like exclusively focused on that. Funny story. We were coordinating for both at the same time, and I thought it was only one podcast. And then
Hmm.
I checked my Facebook yesterday, and I was like, oh, I'm on another podcast tomorrow. I should probably make sure I'm around. So that was kind of amusing. I also, obviously, all my books are available. Links down below on Bladed Combatives. Order that through my website, ultraocrman.com. You can shoot me a message if you want a copy of that. And then me and Phil Elmore, we just did the fruit knife webinar. I think it was our best webinar yet because I think we're getting better every time we do them, and we
Cool.
start playing off each other a little more. So I think it's getting better. I looked at 50 knife attacks for that one for the data, and then I used some various inspiration from various bladed systems I've studied to teach that stuff. So if anyone wants to check that out, you can also hit me up and we can get you a copy of that. I'll pay for that. And then if you want to become a grandmaster, like we were talking about at the end of the episode, the urban warlord system or program or ranking or accountability, whatever. We're not taking it too seriously. The information is good, but the names and some of the selling things are much less serious. So if you want an accountability partner to go and learn some of the stuff for self protection, you can check that out. I'll drop that link down below, the urban warlord link. I think
Very
that's it for now.
cool. Very cool. I do have to plug your book, the Combatives Blueprint. There's
Oh yeah.
review of it on Recoil Concealment magazine. That's out in the newsstands right now. So run to the newsstands. Try to find one first because they're starting to disappear really fast. But if you can find a newsstand with it, your book there, Evan, is well reviewed on recoil concealment.
That was super cool. I was really excited. Me and my wife went to Barnes and Nobles to buy one and take some pictures with it as well. And
Cool.
my wife was unimpressed. She's like, "You've been in magazines before." I was like, "What? Yeah, but like not this one, man, not this magazine." She's like, unimpressed. Like, all right, fine.
Sounds like my wife.
I was really excited. That's the first like quote unquote tactical magazine I've been in. So that
Mm,
was exciting for me. I had one article in Black Belt magazine, so that was also really cool.
mm.
This is my first like quote unquote tactical magazine. So I was excited. I got really excited when I saw the post. So,
Very cool.
all right, links down below. We will see you guys in the next episode. Thanks you for listening.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Take care.